In biology class, I'm going to start from the basics. That is biological science and that is biology tutorial from basics to advance. So in basics, what you understand is about what is the definition and what are the major branches of biology. So here in biology concept map, you can see like genetics, anatomy, evolution, physiology, cells, ecology. Then they have different names also. For example, botany, zoology, mycology, phycology, parasitology, microbiology, taxonomy. So when you enter here, then you need to understand in the basics of biology, that is the cellular foundation of life, the cell division, genetics, molecular biology and biotechnology branches, evolution and the diversity of life, animal structure and function, ecology. These are the 6 units which I will be discussing in this tutorial here. Now, if you think about first unit, then you need to go for introduction to the biology, chemistry of life, cell structure function, how cells could obtain the energy, photosynthesis, and then you need to understand the cells. For example, what are the cellular organelles, the different names, definitions. For example, the cell membrane, cell wall, if it is plant cell or animal cell, then endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, nucleus, nucleolus, in endoplasmic reticulum like rough and smooth, ribosomes, lipids, Golgi complex, peroxisomes, lysosomes, cytoplasm. And the other units are the chapters in the first unit are reproduction at the cellular level, the cellular basis of inheritance, patterns of inheritance. Then in cell division, you could see the different phases of cell division. For example, here you can see interphase, early prophase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and again back to interphase, that is G1. So in general, you hear about G1S and G2 phase in interphase. Now you need to go for molecular biology, biotechnology, and then you have to understand some basic advances in biotechnology and molecular biology. Then you have to understand what comes in different branches of biotechnology disciplines. For example, biology, physics, political science, little bit, social sciences, also, of course, engineering and chemistry. Next is the other chapters, evolution and its processes, diversity of life, diversity of microbes, fungi, and protists, diversity of plants, diversity of animals. Then it comes to the, for example, the scope of botany. When you are going to study specifically the plant science, that is botany. So here you need to understand the basic components of plants, root, stem, leaf, flower, and then different components of leaf, flowers, roots, and many more things. Now you have to go to the like body organ system, something you can think about the zoology, like the study of animals or human beings. So here, body systems, immune systems, disease, animal reproduction, and development. Then similarly, you enter into ecology part, like population and community ecology, ecosystems and biospheres, conservation and biodiversity. Now, we enter into the first unit, that is the cellular foundation of life, where we will be covering the introduction to biology, chemistry of life, cell structure function, how cells obtain energy, photosynthesis, and where you could see the structure or you could understand the structure of a cell. So by the end of this section, you will be able to identify and describe the properties of life, describe the levels of organization among the living organisms, then list of examples of different subdisciplines of biology or in biology. So basically, biology is the science that studies the life. or living organisms. What exactly is life? This may sound like a silly question with an obvious answer, but it is not easy to define the life. For example, a branch of biology called virology studies studies the viruses, which exhibit some of the characteristics of living entities but lacks others. It turns out that although viruses can attack living organisms, cause diseases, and even reproduce, but they do not meet the criteria that biologists use to define the life. So there is a need to understand the well-defined properties of life. Now, properties of life are order, sensitivity or response to a stimuli, reproduction, adaptation, growth and development, regulation, homeostasis, energy, processing. So here, order you can understand like life is characterized by highly ordered structures. Then you have to go response to the environment. All organisms respond to the environmental stimuli. This virus fly trap rapidly closed its trap in response to a fly landing on it. Now, regulation. Organs have regulatory mechanisms that maintain a beneficial internal environment. Then, sunbathing raises this lizard's body temperature on the cold morning. Then you go for reproduction. Organisms reproduce their own kind. Growth and development, inherited information encoded in DNA controls the pattern of growth and development. Energy processing, organisms take in energy that use it to power all their activities. Evolution or evolutionary adaptation, adaptations such as this red panda, one providing tail, evolved over countless generations as individuals with heritable traits that are best suited to their environments have greater reproductive success. Now, you can understand the properties of life, and that is order, first property of life like organelles, cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems, organisms, populations, and communities, then ecosystems, then the biosphere. Organelles, the nucleus dyed blue in these onion cells, is an example of an organelle that is nucleus. Cells, human blood cells, tissues, human skin tissue, organs and organ systems. Organs such as the stomach, intestine make up the human digestive system. Organisms and population and communities in a forest. Each pine tree is an organism. Together, all the pine trees make up a population, and all the plant and animal species in the forest comprise a community. Ecosystems, this coastal ecosystem in the southeastern United States includes living organisms and the environment in which they live. Then the biosphere, which encompasses all the ecosystems present on the earth. Now, properties of life, which is second property, that is sensitivity or response to stimuli. Organisms respond to diverse stimuli. For example, plants can bend toward a source of light or respond to touch. Even teeny bacteria can move toward or away from chemicals, a process that is called chemotaxis movement, or light that is called phototaxis. Movement toward a stimuli or a stimulus is considered a positive response, while movement away from the stimulus is considered as a negative response. Now, these another property of life is reproduction, like to reproduce the similar kind. Single-celled organisms reproduce by first duplicating their DNA, which is the genetic material, and then dividing it equally as the cell prepares to divide to form two new cells. Many multicellular organisms produce specialized reproductive cells that will form a new individuals. When reproduction occurs, DNA containing genes is passed along to an organism's offspring. These genes are the reason that an offspring will belong to the same species and will have characteristics similar to the parent, such as fur color and blood type. Now, next property of life is adaptation, an action or characteristic that helps a living organism to survive in its environment, to help in get their food, reproduce, protects from predators, survive the climate, deals with the geographical features. So all the living organisms exhibit a fit to their environment. Biologists refer to this as fit as adaptation, and it is the consequence of evolution by natural selection, which operates in every lineage of reproducing organisms. Examples of adaptations are diverse and unique, from heat resistant archaea that live in a boiling hot springs to the tongue length of a nectar feeding moth that matches the size of the flower from which it feeds. All the adaptations enhance the reproductive potential of individual exhibiting them, including their ability to survive to reproduce. Adaptations are not constant. As an environment changes, natural selection causes the characteristics of individuals in a population to track those changes. Now, next properties of life is growth and development. So here you can see the organisms are growing and developing according to specific instructions coded by their genes. These genes provide instructions that will direct cellular growth and development, ensuring that a species young will grow up to exhibit many of the same characteristics as its parent. Here you can see from germination to seedling, vegetative, flowering, and cellular senescence. So, in the similar way, you can understand the growth properties, our growth and developmental properties in different organisms. Next properties, next property of life is regulations. So even the smallest organisms are complex and require multiple regulatory mechanisms to control internal functions such as the transport of nutrients, response to stimuli, and coping with environmental stresses. For example, organ systems such as the digestive or circulatory systems perform specific functions like carrying oxygen throughout the body, removing wastes, delivering nutrients to every cell, and cooling the body. So here you can understand now homeostasis is the next property of life. That means to function properly. Cells require appropriate conditions such as proper temperature, pH, and concentrations of diverse chemicals. These conditions may, however, change from the one moment to the next. Organisms are able to maintain internal conditions within a narrow range almost constantly despite environmental changes. Though a process called homeostasis or steady states, the ability of an organism to maintain constant internal condition. And that is the most important property of life. So you need to understand properly the homeostasis of life. Now, the energy processing. So when you think about the energy, so it's similar as you see in any machine. Similarly, in you can see in the living organisms. So when this bear eats its catch, it will use the chemical energy stored in the fish of to power its own activities and chemical reactions. So the plants could obtain their energy from the sunlight. So animals get their energy from consuming other organisms. Plants get their energy from the sunlight. Now, the cellular organizations will be the next basically topic which I will be discussing. So the general structures move along a line from one cell to tissues to organ to being, which gives us the word called organism, a living thing with an organ system. So here you can see cell to tissue, tissue to organ, and organ to organism, and finally a